Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 3 of Tour of the Basque Country 2025. Today's stage is going to be an epic one, and one I'm sure all of the riders here at the Basque Country are going to remember for the rest of their life. I have done this exact kind of stage when we're talking about 100 miles in length, about just under 160 kilometers in distance, with 7 categorized climbs. Really, there's like 11 climbs out there, but 7 of them are categorized climbs. One of them is about 9 kilometers and super steep, but that climb the Peloton will just go over as the camera starts to come on for us. Now, when we start watching the camera come on, you know it's chaos, and it's been chaos throughout the whole Peloton from kilometer 0 all the way into about 77 kilometers to go, when we start seeing 3 riders up the front, 1 solo, that's Bruno Armai, then 3 more riders behind him, and that's Sepp Kuss is behind him, Del Toro's behind him, and Vlasov are together. Those 3 riders behind Bruno Armai. Now, I can tell you right now, sitting on the Chesterfield, that I already know it's been chaos when you look at this scenario. But I start asking myself, how much longer does Almeida actually want to stay riding for UAE Team Emirates? I mean, of all the riders that go over there, UAE Team Emirates, Almeida has been flicked a number of times when it comes to the team being able to ride Tactic 101. What's Tactic 101? Well, first off, don't ever break the #1 rule on the Butterfly Effect, which is to mean you never leave your leader. You stay with your leader all the time. Okay, sometimes I'm not completely against if a big break goes up the road and one of your riders can just latch on and you have a satellite rider up there in the break, as long as everything's being controlled in the Peloton. But in general, unless it was really easy to get one of my riders, and if I believe Almeida is the best rider in the Peloton right here at the Basque Country, remember, he's tied on time with Max Schachmann from Pseudo Quickstep, who's also basically tied with Lipovic from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Those 3 riders are separated from half a second there to Almeida and 3/4 of a second to Lipovic, which they call 1 second. So again, if I'm looking at the Director Sportif of UAE Team Emirates and I'm paying Almeida the kind of money that I'm sure they are, I'm expecting him to win here at the Basque Country, and I'm going to put my team around him the whole time. I'm not going to break the #1 rule on the Butterfly Effect unless I can get a satellite rider very easily going up in the break. But when I look at Del Toro and I see how the Peloton's shredded to pieces right now, and you start looking at the back of the Peloton, and you start seeing Mark Hershey off in a back group there. Then you start seeing Pale Bilbao from Bahrain Victorious. He's in a group of about 15. They're 2 minutes off the back. And then we start finding in the front of the Peloton that's wrapping up the 4 leaders that were just up of the road there with Del Toro, Vlasov, and of course, we'll see Bruno Armai get wrapped up shortly. Now, we're going to come into the next climb. We're going to call it the 5th climb here on today's stage. There's only 7, so this is the 3rd to go if you're not counting the other bumps all along the road. So with 3 climbs to go, we see that there starts becoming more and more attacks going up the road, and we see Brandon McNulty following the tacks. Once he's following the tacks, look what's happening behind. Now remember, Del Toro that we already saw was in the last attack. Now we're seeing Brandon McNulty follow the attacks. Then we see Del Toro bridging across to put about 6 guys in there. And then the last guy bridging across, that's Almeida. So you got Brandon McNulty using energy to follow the attack. You got Del Toro using energy to get into this move and follow along. And then you got Almeida back there following along too, just to have all 3 riders in this front group. Now, when you get the group up here, and we'll call it about 7, 8 riders, you see that Lipovic is in this group too, and then you see that it's Bora Hansgrohe that's back there still chasing. Now, are they riding for Vlasov? And if you're riding for Vlasov, why were you attacking back there with Sepp Kuss and Del Toro, trying to close the gap up to Bruno Armai? And now we see Lipovic. So if Lipovic is attacking, following these moves, and you see Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe back there pulling Lipovic back, is he your leader? I don't know what's happening with Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. These guys are knuckleheads. And sure, right away within kilometers, I can tell you UAE Team members are certainly knuckleheads because they've wasted a ton of energy. Now, we start going back, and you're asking me, Chris, where's Max Schachmann in all this time? Well, as they started this climb with 3 climbs to go, Max Schachmann was split off. He was fighting to get back on up to these guys, but he was never really pulling on the front. Other teams were pulling on the front for him, and we start seeing him come back into the picture, and he's about 20th position back there when he does. Then we start nearing the top of the climb, but there was some more attacks I left off because I can't name them all. It's insane the amount of attacks that are happening on today's stage 3. But once we near the summit of this climb at about 70, 72 kilometers to go, right in that area, Brandon McNulty attacks, and then he's got this Stunner rider on his wheel. That's Tejada. these two riders are going to go over the top of the KOM with a small gap. They're going to drop down the descent, and Brandon McNulty's riding on the front the whole time. The whole time down the descent, Brandon McNulty's riding on the front, Tejada sitting second wheel. They come out of the bottom, and we start seeing Tejada take some pulls on the front with Brandon McNulty. And again, I'm like, how much energy are you guys going to waste? Well, all of a sudden, flying by the camera, we see that there's another UAE team member that's following two from Movistar. The two from Movistar, the important one to look after is, of course, Enric Mas. It's Nelson Oliveira. Should be the first rider if I remember correctly, but keep an eye on UAE team members. That's the important one because that's Almeida as he's coming across in this group of three. But then there's a fourth rider coming because it's Skilmos from Lidl Trek that's flying across the gap once the descent ended proper. All four of these riders will bridge up to the two in front. Now, next thing you know, we got 6 riders in the front. We start looking at the back. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe riding the front. I don't know if they're riding for Lipovets or Vlasov, but right now they're definitely on the front and they're going full gas. We're going to find out shortly hereafter who's riding for who, because then we're going to see Vlasov coming in this next bump. It's not a categorized climb, but it definitely starts going up because this is the Basque Country and it's hilly everywhere with narrow, technical, and twisty roads. But Vlasov's on the front once the bump starts coming up proper. Now, we look back at Vlasov and he's starting to blow. Once he blows, now we know Lipovets is, at this moment in the race, he's certainly the GC favorite for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe because Lipovets is riding second and he has to accelerate to close the gap, which means Vlasov used a ton of energy on the flats to bring this back so that Lipovets could close the gap. He closes up to the gap, and then we see Brandon McNulty at the front. He's pulling on the front. We got Almeida sitting second. Brandon McNulty turns around and looks back at his teammate, and his teammate, Almeida, seems to give him the nod. Okay, I don't get it. Are you going to ride tempo now? The peloton's all back together with all the GC favorites, and Max Schachmann's in here. Lipovets is back in the picture. All of the GC favorites, minus Hershey and Peo Bilbao, if you want to consider them GC favorites, have been dropped early. But at this moment, all of the peloton GC favorites are together, and Almeida is going to tell Brandon McNulty to start riding tempo. Well, if you're going to ride tempo, why wouldn't you ride tempo the whole race? Set it nice and smooth the whole time, pick the pace up on each of the climbs, wear all the legs out, and then launch Almeida on the final climb of today's stage, which is going to start with about 7 kilometers to go, and it's a nasty climb. All these climbs are nasty. We're talking about 9, 10, 11% averages. But at this moment, they switched their tactic. Now they're no longer attacking like we saw with 3 climbs to go where it was Del Toro attacking, Brandon McNulty was attacking. Now we're just going to ride tempo. So Brandon McNulty's on the front riding tempo. He's going to ride a few kilometers. We get into about 56 kilometers to go, and the Solarism comes into the picture. So Soler, you see him sitting second as he slots up there to Brandon McNulty. He comes around the right side, and Brandon McNulty looks over to the right. I don't know if Brandon McNulty knows what's going on right now. It looks like kind of a surprise look to the right as he sees Soler attack. So you were attacking, then you were riding tempo on the front, now you're attacking. You know how hard it is to ride the front at the professional peloton at a World Tour stage race, the hardest stage race of the season, the Basque Country, like Brandon McNulty was doing when all of a sudden Soler throws in a nasty attack. Well, Soler throws in this attack, and then we start looking. We got 2 more riders attacking on the other side. We're going to see Clement Berth from AG2R, and we're going to see FDJ. That rider right there is Rudy Millard. As those 2 riders bridge up to Soler, now what's happening in the back of the peloton? Well, we go back there and look, and FDJ's Guillaume Martin's throwing an attack. This guy's a knucklehead too. He's got Rudy Millard up in the group of 3, and Guillaume Martin's throwing an attack. I don't know what he's doing, but they bring him back, of course, and then Cofidis start getting on the front with Sergio Samitier. So right now, Cofidis is riding the front because they got Alex Aramburu in the group here, and he's won stages here at the Basque Country in the past. I believe about 3 seasons ago, if I'm not mistaken, give or take. As we see Samitier riding some tempo on the front, they'll control it for a little bit, and then we see the next team's getting on the front as Samitier pulls off the front. Well, the next team's going to be Bahrain Victorious up there, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, and we're going to see Pseudo Quickstep get on the front, all with multiple numbers in this group. This is fine. They're doing a good job, as they should be. They're riding the front because, remember, the race leader's yellow jersey is, of course, Max Schachmann. So that's why we see Pseudo Quickstep on the front. Now the peloton's working well together, so we're coming into just under 40 kilometers to go, and it's the penultimate climb here on stage 3. As this climb starts, this is a nasty climb, guys. We see it's super narrow, and we see the 3 riders are starting with about a minute gap, I'll call it, at this point in time. Well, it's very interesting here because they're coming into this left hard turn. We see Rudy Millard just barely made it through this left as they had the big bumper right there of pad that he just almost clipped when he came out of the exit out of this left turn. Then when we see the peloton coming through, well, they're coming through full gas. Everybody makes it through safe. Now, the problem is when we look at this left turn, we see Max Schachmann's in bad position, right? He's way back there. We're talking about 50th. When he started going up this climb, this guy's at points in time, he was third from last. I don't know what Max Schachmann's doing in a race leader's jersey right now so far back, but he's been dropped on the third to go climb and now on the second to go climb, the penultimate climb. He's way at the back as we see Attila Valters is setting some nasty tempo at the front. Now we go up to the first three. And once we get just a little ways into this climb, there's a hard left again, and this is when the climb starts proper. We're talking about 15, 19% sections here, and super narrow as the three riders come into this climb. Once we get a little bit further up here, we're going to see that Solaire's going to get dropped. When we look at Rudy Millard, he got dropped just before Solaire, so now we look up front, Clement Berthe is going solo. We go back down and look at the peloton. We found Almeida, he's in a good position, and he's over by Lipovitz on the right side of the peloton, but he's going to bump into Lipovitz on the left and go into the fans. Looks like he has to unclip with his, possibly with his right foot there, and as he does, he gets back on his bike, but he's got a little help from the fan. Now, at this point in time, when they're going about 10 kilometers an hour, this is why it doesn't matter so much to unclip because the peloton's moving so slow, and with a little help from the fan, that Almeida's right back in the picture, no harm, no foul at this moment. Now they keep continuing going up the climb and it's curb to curb, but it's starting to extend the pace a little bit as we see Almeida start setting some tempo, and this is really starting to hurt his teammates. With his teammates being, of course, McNulty and Del Toro, they're drifting to the back of this group because it's so steep and hard right now from the pace at the front of the peloton that Almeida's hurting his teammates. Well, finally he comes off the front, and it's more Lipovitz on the front and more curb to curb going up this climb. But once they go over the top for the three breakaway riders, one now because he's going solo, Clement Berthe from AG2R, he's going over solo. And the next two riders, they're back there at about 30 seconds, but they're going to get dropped and get wrapped up by the peloton. We look at the pelotons, they're coming over Summit, it's 15 riders. But there's no Max Schachmann in this group. He's a little bit off the back, and they're bombing down the descent, and it'll take him just a little bit more time before he comes back onto the back of the group there. Then the group starts getting larger and larger as the stage progresses. There's 30 and 40 rider groups back there coming together as the peloton. But Clement Berthe is going solo up the road still, holding about a 50 seconds to a minute and 10-second gap on the peloton behind. Now we start coming into 26 kilometers to go, and Max Schachmann throws in attack. I did not see this coming. I almost fell off my Chesterfield as I saw Max Schachmann throwing an attack in the race leader's jersey with 26 kilometers to go. I couldn't believe it, but it seems like it's going to work. Now remember, everybody's been incredibly tired. Almeida's been throwing in attacks, Lipovitz been throwing in attacks, Vlasov's been throwing in attacks, Brandon McNulty, Solaire's been throwing in attacks multiple times, and you can be assured that the Solaireism was throwing in attacks before the cameras came out proper, because now he got blown up, and of course, we got the solo rider, Clement Berthe, going up the road. But when we start looking at Max Schachmann going up the road, guys, he gets some company. Like, he looks back over his shoulder, and then you see the Ineos rider right there. I'll call that Axel Lorentz as he starts pulling on the front of this group here. But then you start looking in this group, who else is in there? Okay, we'll call it about a dozen riders, give or take. As we look at this group, we see that there's two riders. Red Bull, Bora, Hansgrohe in the group with Vlasov and Lipovitz. Guys, we're talking about 10 seconds down on the general classification, Vlasov, and we're talking about basically 3/4 of a second back. That rider right there, of course, is Lipovitz, and he's in this group too. So Vlasov starts going to the front and pulling like crazy. Now we go back and look at this group again and look at this 3rd, 4th, 5th position, and we see Del Toro's up here, UAE Team Emirates. Well, we go back and look at the peloton now. Look at Almeida, he's isolated. Look at the attacks that are going up the road as Almeida's just looking over to his left. He can't do anything about it. He's got the yellow jersey up the road. He's got third on GC up the road. He's got Vlasov up the road, who's in the top 10 at 10 seconds. He missed all of the moves, and he's got his teammate Del Toro in this front group while he's at the back watching more riders trying to attack and go across the group. Even Lidl Trek was throwing in some attacks that Almeida just had to look over at and just watch moves go, because there's no way the Portuguese rider has anything left to follow every attack that could possibly go in at this moment with no teammates around him. Well, lucky for him, he's going to get some help as we see Kofidis on the front. Now Kofius is Sergio Samitier again, and again he's riding for Alex Aramburu. As we know, the rider from Kofius wants a shot at winning today's stage because he's a Basque rider. But Almeida, even throwing in some attacks, has got to be feeling the effects of today's stage when we're going into 20 kilometers to go. Up front, we look at the group up there. We'll call it 11, 12 guys, and we're coming up to the sprint point competition that has time bonuses. Well, Clement Berth went through first that we didn't get to see on camera, so we get to see the sprint for second and third. In this second and third sprint, Del Toro does one thing correct in today's stage so far that I saw while I'm sitting on the couch, and he's going to take the second place time bonus sprint away from Lipovitz, who gets third and gains 1 second. That means Lipovitz is the virtual race leader right now. Now, they don't say it up on the screen correctly, but I know for sure from the time trial, he was only 3/4 of a second off of the time of Max Schachmann, and he gained a second back, so he should be more than the virtual leader. He should be the actual leader at this moment. That means Schachmann, who got 4th at the sprint, doesn't get any time bonuses, but the jerseys will switch hands at this moment, which means everybody's got to start focusing on this final climb and the time bonuses at the end of the stage. Well, we go back and look at the peloton, and we see Kofius is still on the front. Sergio, he's doing a fine job, and Del Toro's going to come back to the peloton once we get deep into the stage, but we see him at the back of the peloton back there. He's suffering big time. We go up front, and I believe it's going to be Brandon McNulty up there pulling with Sergio Samitier from Kofius. Those two riders are holding about a 20-second, 30-second gap on the group of 10 in front, who are still 30 seconds behind the time of Clement, the solo rider here leading on stage 3 of the Basque Country. Now, once we start coming under 10 kilometers to go, I'll call it 9.5, we see Brandon McNulty blows. Once he blows, the camera goes up front, and we see Del Toro had gotten himself from the back of the peloton to the front, but immediately he blows. Now Almeida's left isolated. At this point in time, he's isolated. Sergio Samitier's blown, Brandon's blown, Del Toro's blown, and you got to hope that other teams get on the front because they still haven't closed the gap. They've gotten it closed within 10, 15 seconds, but Almeida is isolated now with no teammates. Look at this helicopter angle as we start looking at the peloton here chasing how small the group is. I'll call it about 35 riders, and we see Almeida in the center of the group hoping that somebody will keep pulling. Luckily for him, Lidl Trek's on the front, Movistar's on the front, FDJ has multiple riders, 4 or 5 riders in this group. Movistar have multiple riders. Lidl Trek have 2, and it's Quinn Simmons pulling on the front for Skilmos. But Almeida's isolated. You know you did something completely wrong in stage 3 of Tour of the Basque Country if you're UAE team members and you have no teammates left, and Almeida's isolated. And let me recall you guys and bring you back to the first climb that we saw here on stage 3 when the cameras came on proper. He's been attacking left, right, and center all over the place on this stage, so his legs can't quite possibly be feeling great. Well, luckily, like I said, he's got some help on the front controlling the peloton, but if he flats right now, it's game over for the Basque Country. We could start going up to about 7.5 kilometers, just under that. We see the first rider, Clement, hits the turn. He drops down the turn. He starts the last and final climb here on stage 3 with only a few second gaps. He's certainly going to get wrapped up because when we look at the group of 10 back there chasing, it's still Vlasov leading on the front of the group here as he's got Lipovitz that he's trying to help win the Basque Country, but Lipovitz is, although the race leader at this moment, he's still got Max Schachmann in this group too. Now, as they start to climb proper, they come through that left turn to start the climb proper, and the group behind latches on just as the climb starts to go up, but Almeida has no teammates. So you can't quite see him in the picture yet, but you can certainly see the first attack coming from the front, and that's Tejada from Astana. As Tejada's throwing in a nasty acceleration, it's stringing out this group of 10 as the peloton just attached on. Now Almeida finally comes into the picture. He's sitting about 20th in the picture, and he's going to have to do a monster effort because we're talking about a 15% climb for about 1.2 kilometers of today's stage, that it's going to be really nasty all the way to the top summit with about 6 kilometers to go. As they start going up the climb, once we see Tejada blows, all of a sudden we start seeing that Lipovitz is on the front setting some tempo. He's blowing it up, and Almeida is fighting to bring his way up to the front. He's getting up there as Lipovitz starts destroying this front group. We'll bring it down to about 7, 8 riders with a gap, but Almeida's made the split. Now, as Lipovitz is at the front, then the next attack is going to come from Alex Aramburu. Now, with the attack of Roman Gregor, it's hurting the pace a lot. And again, it's bringing it down to a elite selection here on stage 3. Max Schachmann is swinging, but he's closing the gap for Pseudo Quickstep. As he's driving it, closing the gap, we're coming up to the summit. He's going to summit today's stage with about 6 kilometers to go in first position. This group is an elite group, 7, 8 riders right now. If we go back, it should be Skillmost that's near the back of the group here. Once there's a little bump after the KOM, guess who throws in attack? Almeida, UAE Team Emirates. He's still got some legs left. Guys, he's been phenomenal with his fitness here on stage 3, but the tactics have been horrendous. At this moment, though, I kind of like this tactics because we know Almeida doesn't like to go downhill in a group, so you might as well go down first. Well, Almeida throws in attack. As he's throwing in attack, he's bombing through this left turn a little bit off. He's not quite hitting the apex right. Looks like he went into it wrong and he exited wrong, but he still made it through. Then we see flying past the motorcycle there on the right side, Alex Aramburu from Team Cofidis. He's going to bridge up there as it takes a little while further down this descent before he bridges up to the front rider there, Almeida. We start looking at the back group that's chasing back there. It's split up in pieces. But Lipovitz is doing everything he can, and he's got Max Schachmann near him sitting second or third as they're driving down the descent. But Skillmost is off with a group of about 4 trying to close up to the back as we come off this descent with about 2.2 kilometers to go. I'll call it 2.1. We see up front, Almeida's getting wrapped up there properly by Alex Aramburu. As Alex Aramburu is coming onto his wheel, though, we got a roundabout coming up. This roundabout's coming at 1.9 kilometers to go. Almeida's in the front. We all know Almeida has some problems going through corners, and I always pointed out here on stage 3 just a few moments ago. As Almeida comes into this roundabout, he misjudges it. He pops up onto the right side sidewalk, the gravel there, whatever you want to call it. That slows him down. Alex Aramburu makes a turn and gets a gap. As Almeida pops off the gravel there, he's got about a 2-second gap to make up on Alex Aramburu. The group behind's flying back there as they're trying to make up time to Almeida, who's trying to make up time to Alex Aramburu. Then we come under the bridge. Once we come out, once the pictures show up after the bridge, we see Alex Aramburu's in the lead, but Almeida's still shortly behind him, about 2 seconds, 3 seconds maybe, I'll call it, as Alex Aramburu comes into the next roundabout. Once he does, he shoots straight through the roundabout. Instead of going to the left, he went right. You see the barricade right there, and he shoots by, and you see the official there. He's waving the flag. He's trying to get Alex Aramburu to go left, but Aramburu goes right. Almeida sees the barrier. He goes to the left. All of the peloton of chasers back there, we'll call it the peloton, about 10 riders, go to the left there again with Almeida. Almeida goes around the left side of the roundabout, comes out with a hard hook there to the left. Once he comes out, Alex Aramburu's got a gap. We're going under 1 kilometer to go. We look at Almeida, looks back over his shoulder, and then we see Pseudo Quickstep. Elan Van Wilder goes to the front. Guys, who would have thought Pseudo Quickstep have teammates left to help out Max Schachmann here, but UAE team members have nobody left? Who's the knucklehead here? Well, Elan Van Wilder starts pulling on the front. They're holding about a 3-4 second gap there to Alex Aramburu as he comes through the next couple right turns. He exits those with about 300 meters to go. He goes through the next bend. Then with 250 meters to go, looks back over his shoulder, and there's attacks coming from the back, but they're about 4 seconds off the time there of Alex Aramburu. So he knows it's time to sit up as Roman Gregor is throwing in attack for FDJ. He throws in the attack. Max Schachmann is moving over to try to get onto the wheel. Almeida's in the picture, but the camera is 100% focused on Alex Aramburu as he starts shaking his head in disbelief with his hand going up on his helmet. Then he sits up and celebrates and crosses the line as the Stage 3 winner of Tour of the Basque Country 2025 for Team Cofidis. Now, I'm sitting there like, there's no way you're the winner. Absolutely no chance you're the winner, and I was calling it back there when he went through that barricade on the roundabout that he's getting relegated for sure and maybe even thrown out of the race. But at this moment, he's celebrating big time. Then we start going back and looking at second on the podium. That's Roman Gregor. Max Schachmann comes through for third. That'll give him 4-second time bonuses. Then Almeida come through for fourth with no time bonuses. Now we go up and look, of course, of Alex Aramburu from Team Cofidis celebrating with his team. He's celebrating all over the place with his staff. He's excited as you can possibly imagine. He is a Basque rider riding for a French team that's winning a stage race at the Tour of the Basque Country. He's for sure excited at this moment, giving interviews and everything, and the whole time I'm like, oh no, they're taking this away. There's no doubt about it. They are taking this away. When I'm listening to the commentators on Flow Bikes, they're talking about how, no, it's okay, it's okay. Then next thing you know, they're saying, oh, no, they got to take it away, they got to take it away. Then they do take the win away, which of course means that Max Schachmann will gain some more time on the general classification because he holds the race leader's yellow jersey with his time bonuses that he got back after losing the yellow jersey back there to Lipovitz. Now he's back in the yellow and will gain some more time. And Almeida will jump from third on the general classification to second, right? Okay, that's what we thought anyways. But the stage win goes to Romain Gregor until we get about an hour after the stage and all the cameras are off. They give the stage win back to Alex Aramburu because Team Cofidis, the director sportif, and I'm sure Alex Aramburu, they complained because in the road book, it says that you can go right and then the organizers decide to block off the right turn. Remember, he's Basque. He's from this area. He trains on this road. He studied the rule book. So when he read the rule book, he went through the right as it said while everyone else went to the left. This is an organizer knucklehead move right here. I honestly think you have to give the stage win to both Alex Aramburu and then you have to give it to Romain Gregor too, because Romain Gregor and especially Almeida, when he went left around that, it was clear to see the road had been cut off. I don't know if I really like the idea of giving it back to Alex Aramburu, but I could understand the complexity of it when he lives in this area. He trained in this area, and the road book says that you can go to the right, even though it was clearly marked that you should have gone to the left. I don't know, guys. I'm up here on the podium here, the butterfly effect. I think I give both winners. That's all the best I could come up with right now, because literally Romain Gregor and Almeida going to the left, they saw the sign. It was easy to see. The marshals there with the flags. It's pretty easy to see you got to go to the left, but okay, it's in the rule book different. So I don't know, you split the stages up, but certainly the organizers are the biggest knucklehead here. And then certainly UAE team members, I don't know what you were doing with that tactic, but Almeida, maybe you need to switch teams and start riding for a team that's going to ride for you 100% the way they should, because this should be a good possibility of winning the Basque Country here. Of course, when it's all said and done, everything came more or less back together with the exception of that 3-second gap at the finish there to Alex Aramburu. But you're on the wheel of Max Schachmann. You lost some time bonuses today. And I think if UAE team members had ridden this stage properly, Tactic 101, bring the guys into the final climb, let Almeida light things up after his team does the train into the climb, he probably could have soloed on today's stage or just had a couple riders for company, and I don't think it would have been Max Schachmann. Now, afterwards, in the interview for Max Schachmann, he said the reason why he's getting dropped early in the stage is because it was hot and it felt like summer, and he felt better after he started getting some water on him. But I think he started feeling better because Almeida's attacking, Soler's attacking, Brandon McNulty's attacking, Del Toro's attacking throughout the whole stage. Max Schachmann's back there not attacking, following wheels. And then once the legs of Almeida, Lipovitz, Vlasov legs start blowing because they're attacking left and right, of course Max Schachmann's legs got better. He wasn't attacking the whole stage. Even at 26 kilometers ago when he attacked, he did one move, and then it was Vlasov riding the front all the way into the final climb. So of course your legs got better, there's no doubt about it. Well, tomorrow we'll find out if I'm right or the rider there from Pseudo Quickstep's right, Max Schachmann, because it's going to be an even harder stage for Stage 4 of the Basque Country. So like and subscribe, and we'll see if Max Schachmann can follow the best climbers here at the Basque Country. See you guys on the next edition real soon.